So it's been about a week since I last updated on Mustang's progress, and there's a couple of reasons here for that. The first of those being that it has been unbelievably busy here for me in North Carolina. I'm teaching right now, and my students were graduating this week, so there were a couple of days where I was helping with that, and the time that I had was so limited. It was pretty much all I could do just to get out and spend some time with her. And the other reason for that is because to someone who's not super well versed in what I'm doing, it doesn't look like we've done a whole lot in the last few weeks. The video clip you see here is from day 6, which picks up right after the last video blog. And pretty much the last week, every single day, has looked a lot like this. We are spending our time on more groundwork, really trying to refine those groundwork cues. What I really want from the Mustang right now is for her to understand that sometimes my body language means something. And especially, sometimes if she responds to that body language, then she gets a reward from it. And that reward for her is for me to back out of her space, to change the energy in my body so it applies less pressure to her. For example, here, I'm getting her to circle me at a really slow gait and even to turn towards me, and this is just day 6. And I'm working on all of this stuff because, again, I want to reiterate, there is so much we can do without having to worry about getting my hands on and handling this horse. One of the questions I've been getting a lot ever since I brought the Mustang home, it seems from day 1, is have you had the first touch yet? I didn't realize that was such a big deal with Mustang training, but it is. And it's come up a lot now. And the people who are asking are, genuinely very curious and honest about it. But for me, it just wasn't even on my radar for that to be a thing that I work on in the first few days or even weeks that I have this horse home. Physical touch is something that comes later on in my training progression. It's not something that I need to work on right now. And the questions have come up so much, it actually reminds me a lot of when I first got engaged. My husband proposed to me at a party with a bunch of our other friends present. I had no idea that he was going to be proposing that night, and I barely had that ring on my finger for 10 minutes when the first person came up and congratulated me and then said, okay, now when's the wedding? And I laughed, and, it was kind of, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But by the end of the night, I'd had at least 6 or 7 people ask me that, and it had been maybe 2 hours that I'd been engaged. And it was enough questioning that I actually started to question myself and think, oh my God, did I get engaged properly? Should I have already been planning my wedding? Did I do something wrong? And fortunately, when I have thoughts like that, I'm capable of being self-aware of them. And I immediately noticed that self-doubt and was like, wait a second. Just because other people are asking me these questions doesn't mean that I'm on the wrong path. This is my path. And my work with this horse is very much the same thing. The whole first touch thing, I realize now it's a big deal, and it's something that a lot of people work towards in the first few days that they have a Mustang home. For me, I knew from the get-go that I wanted that to come up organically. I want to train a horse that knows what to do when I ask her a question, even if it's the first time that she's doing it. I don't want to have to put my horse in a position where she has things to choose from that might not be the right answer. So if I were to try and approach this horse right now and touch her, she would do one of 2 things. Most likely, she would run from me. But alternatively, if I corner her, perhaps I corner her in her stall and approach to touch, even if she's non-aggressive, even if she genuinely doesn't try and rush around me, she would be so scared that all I would accomplish is forcing my will on this horse who is not yet ready for that first touch to take place. I don't want to do that to her. I want that first touch between us to be something that's mutual, where I can approach her without her fearing me, and she can approach me knowing it's an honest question to see if I want to allow her to come into my space or not. It's mutual. So you've seen this throughout these training days that we've had, days 6, 7, 8, 9. There's even a few days in here where I didn't get to video. I still worked with the horse, but it was pouring rain, too much rain for me to set up a camera. So I put my rain jacket on and I went outside and worked with the horse. And that has all led us up to this work that I'm doing here on day 11 or 12. I think it was day 12. And this is where we are doing that same groundwork, but it's getting more refined. And this is what I call leading with an invisible rope. You can imagine that I have a lead rope in my hand that's pointing her around, and I'm lunging her right now. I'm starting to see that bend to the inside where she kind of keeps an ear on me. And what's really interesting right there is she keeps checking in and is starting to ask me questions. She's going to do it again when she comes back around the pen. And you can see her asking me, hey, can I stop? And I point. And all it takes is me to point and say, I see you asking that question, but no, we're going to keep going. And she accepts that and does. Here I back my feet up, expecting her to turn, and she was a little slow to it, so I point in the new direction. She watched me and turned on her hind end and took off in that new circle without any fear. I back my feet up again at the end of this circle. She turns in immediately, so we find a spot to rest. And this is so great because she's so relaxed. So this is day 12. And I'm out in shorts. It's a hot day. The flies are bothering this poor horse. We've been out at it for about 20, 30 minutes. But you can see the point. I'm asking her to move her front leg just one step over to the left. And when she picks up that front leg, I even offer a reward. And then I'm going to ask her to move her hind leg over. And it's, again, imagining that I have that invisible lead rope in my hand. Sometimes I'll even reach towards her and show her that just because my hand is moving doesn't mean I expect her to move. So I'm getting her used to me reaching towards her. On one of the days that it was raining, I practiced reaching towards her with a whip in my hand. So I reached the whip towards her, and then I'd remove it when she stood still. So she's starting to learn the language that I'm speaking with my body. She's learning that when I point, either left or right, it's a cue to move her front feet, either left or right. And when I step around behind and pretend I'm holding that invisible rope, that is her cue to step over behind with those hind legs. So here I am pointing, so that's a front leg movement, asking her to move those front feet, getting in position. There, the front feet moved. I drop my hand, and then we wait. And now I'm looking at the back feet, asking those back feet to move. And there, the back feet step over, and the front feet stay facing me. Is it perfect? No. But is she figuring it out? Yes, and that's the coolest thing. And then I reach towards her and show her that there's nothing to fear when I reach towards her. And this was the day where she got so comfortable with it that she started to inch forward, which I have not punished her for. I don't want to. I want to encourage that at all costs. So she started to inch forward and try to interact with me in my space on mutual terms in a non-threatening way and in a way that she was totally comfortable with. She did a lot of licking and chewing and even some really big yawns during this time. And that was so cool to see because I don't know if you guys can tell, but this horse is spotless. She has not laid down so much as to roll since she got here. I kind of feel bad for her. I imagine she must be really, really tired because horses do need to lay down to sleep, typically 2 to 4 hours a day, but they will not lay down if they don't feel safe. And so the fact that she has not a speck of dirt on her coat indicates to me that she has not really felt safe since she's moved in. And I don't blame her. I doubt she even felt safe back at the holding facilities, being in those smaller pens with about 20 other horses. So who knows when the last time this poor horse got a good night's sleep was, but hopefully she'll feel comfortable enough to do something like that soon. So here we are, still on day 12, a different camera angle, and you can see those big yawns happening. She's really getting comfortable with me, and she's just reaching out and totally comfortable expressing herself now. We've got a lot of funny faces today, and I'm just hanging out with her, and that's my goal, is just to get her comfortable around me. We'll do some movement sometimes, and then other times I want her to know we can hang out together and it's okay. So she's gotten really curious. When she looks at something, I try and look at it as well to acknowledge it. A really cool thing that I've noticed with her is that even though there's things outside of the pen that will spook her from time to time, she has started to immediately stop, turn to face me, and then watch me to see how I react to the thing that she spooked at. What that means is her spooks have actually gotten a lot less. Instead of bolting to the other side of the pen, sometimes now she'll just pick her head up suddenly and immediately look to watch my reaction. So that's super cool. And because of that, she's paying so much more attention to me. So when I look away, she notices and knows that that means something. And when I look at her nose instead of at her eyes, she notices and knows that that's okay. She's comfortable around me, and that's what I love so much to see at this point in our training. All right, I'm going to be quiet now, and you guys are going to get to watch some of this cool first interaction stuff. She reached out just like she would another horse and tried to sniff my face. You know, horses would greet each other by sniffing noses. So I blew on her nose just a little bit like another horse would do, and she thought that was kind of interesting. And then later on, I also started to offer my hand to her so that she had something she could reach for and touch as well, the way that humans would interact with horses. So I'm working with her on the way that she's familiar with and also on a way she's not familiar with. So yeah, you know, all of this groundwork was for a purpose, and we've gotten our groundwork really good. What ended up happening? We got to that first touch, and it was on her terms, which is exactly how I wanted it to go.